Hello everyone, and welcome to one more of my videos in this channel, Islam in the 21st Century. My name is Sofia Tsourlaki, for those of you that you don't know me, and today I want to talk about not only one, several pathologies among Muslims. I will not say in Islam, because that is a very misleading mention. I will say among Muslims. Right now I'm very upset, and I'm doing my best to be patient as God has ordered me in the Quran, and gentle in my words, but sometimes we need harsh words for people to wake up, because yeah. So let's start the topic. Recently I watched a khutbah video. I will not name names because my intention is not to harm a certain individual. And this video is not even about this individual, it's about you, the lay believers, the followers, the Muslims. Anyway, so I was watching this khutbah, and that young man, very young man, in his beard, in his galabiyah, starts talking about his topic. And I will say to you a few sentences he said. He starts with a very gloomy, expression and sigh, and then he says, here in the West we live in a culture where the culture tells us that we need more. We need to have some kind of job, eating correctly, eating healthily, exercise. And then he continues and says, but Islam taught us to pray, to sacrifice time. And Islam taught us to sacrifice food. And I was listening and I was like, hey, what? What? To begin with, this khutbah, like many other khutbahs, and books, and lectures, it started with the false binary of Western, bad Western Islam. You lay Muslims, you have been fed this false imaginary binary into your lives since you can remember yourselves. Your parents have been fed the same thing. And you never, have I seen? No, I haven't seen. I haven't seen one saying, wait a minute, is this binary true? Is this binary real? Is there anything like West and Islam? To begin with, don't you all say that Islam is for all humanity without borders and without time limits? So what is this West Islam? West is bad, Islam is good. First of all, West is a geographical territory depending on how you watch the map. And then you will come and you say, but in social sciences, West is usually Europe and America. Let's accept that. Aren't there Muslims in West? Isn't there Islam in the West? So that young wannabe sheikh started his khutbah implicitly creating boundaries and dichotomies between something bad, which is the West, and something good, that is Islam. Now, be careful, he didn't say East. He didn't say Muslims. He said Islam. Who can talk against Islam? No one. Can we? No. That's another manipulation of the brain. Huh? You don't compare similar things. You compare a religion with a geographical location. And then let's talk about his arguments. So the West wants us to have some kind of job, eat correctly and healthily, and exercise. Why? Does Islam tell us to be lazy, do nothing, be beggars? Is that what Islam tells us? Didn't the Prophet have a job? Didn't the Prophet have a job? What is bad with... Here in the West, we live in a culture that tells us to have a job. Really? Yeah. Horrible. How? Why? It tells us to eat correctly and healthily. Why? Islam tells us to eat what? Badly? Here in the West, culture tells us to exercise. Oh my dear God. And then, the manipulation, huh? Islam taught us to pray. Who on earth told you that you cannot pray if you have a job, eat healthily, and exercise? What's wrong with exercising? What's wrong with exercising? What do you want? To not exercise in order to pray, and then when you go age 60, you can't breathe, you can't talk, you can't climb the stairs? I will not touch more of the khutbah, because one thing, the khutbah can be identified and the person can be identified. I don't want that. Not for me, for the young wannabe sheikh. And because I'm not about him, I mean, he's the one that triggered me right now, but I have listened to that manipulative binary for all my life, since I started dealing with Islam, and that was 20-something years ago. And we did have a huge backlash here in the UK. I don't know overseas, but in the UK we had a massive backlash in the 90s and early 2000s with imported men that were serving as imams in Bengali, Pakistani mosques, that they were preaching the same thing, and young people stopped going to the mosque. So, and you will tell me, oh, but why? Why are you so upset about that? I'll tell you why I'm so upset. Because there is something, you know, harm, when you do harm, there is the explicit harm. I can take a knife and stab you. That's explicit harm. But there is also implicit harm. If I make sure that I place a knife in a certain position, and I make sure that I put something on the floor so that you will trip, and then I call you in the room, and I call you in the room, you trip and you fall and you stab, you know, you get hurt by the knife, I will look at you and I will be like, oh my God, you stabbed yourself. But did you really stab yourself? Or I stabbed you implicitly? It's the exact same impact. And I will tell you why. Because whether humans can accept it or not, whether born Muslims can accept it or not, a large number of Muslims in the West, we are converts, many of whom have become excellent scholars. When a born Muslim starts preaching about this imaginary and manipulative binary of bad West, good Islam, forces us to hate ourselves, to hate our past. And that manifests in many ways. And I want the converts, those of you that you are converts, to participate and leave some comment with your experiences if they are different than mine. I will give you a few examples that I have experienced and my friends and my community of converts have experienced. To begin with, everything starts with this idea that, oh, once you convert, your past has no meaning, and all your sins are forgiven. And this is very sweet and very nice in the ears of the convert. Okay, so whatever mistake I have made in my past, whatever sin is being erased. It doesn't exist. But this erasure does not include only the sins. You have to deny everything, your history, your past, your ancestors. And for many of us, this is particularly difficult. I was participating in a class of Islamic history where the lecturer said that, oh, once you become a Muslim, your history is Islamic history. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not how it goes. Personally, I'm from Crete, Greece, okay? Crete was an independent island for centuries. Therefore, every population surrounding Crete, you want the Italians? We had them as lords. They conquered us. You want the French? They conquered us. You want the Byzantines? They conquered us. And then came the Ottomans. The Ottomans were Muslims. The population in Crete largely were Christians. There have been historical incidents where Muslims came into the island and killed us. Muhammad Ali, the king of Egypt, that was an Ottoman pasha, sent his son-in-law to my island. And there is a very traumatizing historical event where the Egyptians trapped the Christian Cretans into a cave, and they lit a fire in the entrance of the cave, and they choked them to death. There's another incident, again Ottoman Empire, in a big monastery, where the Ottomans were fighting the local population that had sought refuge in the monastery, and eventually the high priest of the monastery blew up the monastery, and everyone died, including the Ottomans, but children, women, everyone. And this was an act of defense, and act of despair and fear of what would have happened to these women and children if they had fallen into the hands of the Ottomans. We all know what would have happened. They would have been slaves. So, this is my history. My history has Muslims killing my ancestors merely for the religion and for the resistance to occupation. I will not go further on to the many questions of how did you become Muslim. That's my own business. But this is my history. It's not Islamic history. So if you want me, if you label everything Western, because I'm a Westerner, okay? I was born and bred and raised Westerner. I drank Westerner water, I ate Westerner food, and I breathed, if I can say, Westerner air. I'm a Westerner, but I'm a Muslim. But if you create this binary, bad West, that wants us to have job and eat healthily, God, and good Islam. So I have to kill my Western part? This is one, okay? And starts with once you become a convert, that they call it revert, but anyway, convert, it's the correct word. Once you come to Islam, your past is erased. No, my past is not being erased. I don't want it to be erased. I have nothing. I mean, that drives me crazy, because theoretically, once we become Muslims, our history is Islamic history. My history is not Islamic history. I have no blood relation to the Prophet or to Ibn Abbas or to whoever. Any Khalif and anyone. I have no blood relations with these people. I have no past common with any of these people. And making this impossible choice of I have to either be Western and be, honor my ancestors and honor my history, or Muslim. It's like... So it starts with this one. Then comes the forcing gently, with a smile on the face, of, once you convert, you have to change your name, you have to change your dress code, you have to change... No, you don't. You don't. But these are more elements, implicit elements, of depriving those of us that we don't have Middle Eastern or Asian past from our past. And that happens. Lay believers can do that to newcomers into Islam because of wannabe preachers and scholars and you name it, that they maintain the binary. So this is one thing, us the converts, that you ignore us, you erase our past, and you force us to choose between our faith and our history, or our character, or our past. Now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about women. So Muslim women, whether you like it or not, whether you want to say it out loud or not, whether you like listening to it or not, Muslim women have been oppressed and abused within Muslim communities for centuries, at least 10 centuries now. In the 19th and 18th century, when the Muslim women of Middle East and Asia started screaming for air to breathe, for freedom, for decency, for being treated as human beings. Do you know what was the main, still is in the Middle East, argument? How dare you? These are feminist things. Feminism comes from the West. Feminism wants to destroy Islam. Oh, really? Feminism wants to destroy Islam. Human rights, I have heard that many times. Human rights are not acceptable in Islam because human rights are from the West. The bad West, okay? The West that wants us to have a job and wants us to eat and healthily and exercise and has human rights is bad. So, there have been mothers, and there have been wives, and there have been sisters, and there have been daughters that have been beaten up in the Middle East, have been silenced, have been called kafir, have been called whores, because they dared request decency. In the name of the binary, bad West, feminism, good Islam. And that is harm. You harm people by that. And of course, someone might come and say, oh, but the young sheikh didn't think about that. Yeah, because the young sheikh is a man. And young sheikhs and older sheikhs and sheikhs in general perceive the world through their male gaze. They haven't thought about the female gaze. And this sheikh and you wanna be sheikh, because, astaghfirullah, they perceive the world through their born privilege of Islam, okay? They are born Muslims. They are the true Muslims. They don't bother thinking about the converts. And that's a bit weird because some of them are sons of converts. One of the two parents might be a convert. But hey, it's for so long that I don't care about that. Of course, there's another option that these converts might not be Westerners, okay? So if your mother or your father is a convert but is from Asia, is from, then bad West. I told you about sisters, daughters, wives that have been abused by their Muslim males in the name of bad feminism from bad West. The ridiculous reality is that these same men are the ones that they try at any cost to charm Western women when they travel for tourism in their countries. North African countries, Jordan, you name it, Syria, in aim to marry them and get a visa to go to the West. The same men that they tell their own family women that, oh, feminism is bad, it's from the West, it's bad, it wants to destroy Islam, are the same men that they sell, because it's not real, they sell love to Western women so that they can go to the West. Oh, now West is good, huh? Yeah. I actually this was a very traumatizing experience. I participated years ago in an event organized by Musawa here in London. It was all about the rights of women and good for women, Muslim, etc. And then one of the speakers, she was speaking with her husband. She said something that I disagreed with. And of course, me being me, I took the microphone and I argued. And when I told her about this reality, about the thousands of young Muslim-born men that want to come to the West and they lie and they manipulate and they abuse Western women, her response was, yeah, because of colonization. They do that because it's colonization. To begin with, I was shocked. Later, when I watched the videos that Musawa published, I saw that this bit was removed from the videos. And I understand why. Because how can you be in a conference about the rights of women and justify abuse of women in the name of colonization? But let's talk about colonization, huh? You want to talk about colonization? Let's talk about colonization. Those that they come from the Middle East, from Africa, North Africa, South Africa, Asia, whatever is not Europe and America, okay? They scream about colonization and the evils that brought to their people. Therefore, all Westerners are to be accused, to be held accountable, to feel guilty, etc. I have watched that happening in classrooms, in university classrooms, in online chat rooms, and I'm like, where is your reasoning? One of the arguments I use when I talk with people about that, I'm like, okay, so when the bad Westerners, let's talk about Italy, okay? Italy colonized, Somalia, right? And there is a reason I use Italy, because most people, when they think about colonization, they think about UK and Germany and US. Not even Germany, US. But let's talk about Italy. So Italy colonized Somalia. Now, are all Italians responsible for that? Are we to blame all Italians? And also, when the European countries went to these territories, and they colonized them, I don't disagree with the reality of colonization, I don't. But, or when the Britons went to India, did they go by themselves? Did they control the population by themselves? Did they fight and enslaved every single individual? Or they collaborated with the highest social strata of the locals? Did they send all their armies? Because number-wise, the British army didn't have enough people to go, let's say, to India and to Egypt and everywhere. They didn't occupy by force. They collaborated with locals that they were more than willing to collaborate with the Europeans for money. And if you don't know that, you are an ignorant creature. You have never spent an evening reading a history book. So the reality is that the colonizers collaborated with people from the colonized nations to establish colonization. Are we good with that? Yes, we're good. And then the counter-argument will be, yes, but the millions of the lay people that they were not with the colonizers that they suffered. Good, I'm with you. There were millions. Some of them died horrible deaths. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them suffered immensely. The simple people, huh? Not the kings and the lords and the high-class Mughal princes and princesses, etc. The lay people, they did suffer. They did. But do you know who else suffered? The lay, simple people in the colonizer's country. Do you believe that when Britain colonized India or Egypt, the people in the streets of London or the streets of Birmingham or the streets of Leeds were rich? They suddenly became rich? Do you believe that the colonizers were taking the jewels and the wealth from your country and were distributing them to the poor people? No, Habibi, no. Did you fall from some cloud? Welcome to reality. They didn't. We continued having the lower strata of people here being penniless, dying in the streets. Have you read Charles Dickens to see what was happening in the streets of London while the Britons were colonizing other countries? So, when you come today and you want me, because my skin is not dark enough and because I'm from Greece, that Greece didn't colonize anyone, because we have been colonized. But for some reason, because we are Europe, we are colonizers. Another ignorance, element of ignorance. If you want, let's not talk about me, that I'm Greek, about the Britons. If you want to blame Michael and Alicia in the streets of England for the colonization of Queen Victoria, the simple people suffered as much as your simple people. The simple people of colonizers suffered as much as the simple people of your territories. The same way that the lords and the ladies and the kings and the queens were stealing money from you, they were stealing money from the people here as well. So, if you want to compare equally. So, colonization is not an excuse for you to hate the Westerners, but love being in the West, because West has freedom, has better financial prospect, etc. Now, we clarified these three elements, okay? The wannabe sheikhs that they say whatever without taking into consideration the realities of the people. And the false binary. They feed you this false binary for centuries and you haven't even realized. And also this colonization. Yeah, colonization existed, but the simple people did not get any benefit out of that. And the idea, but it was a social system. No, there wasn't social system until very recently. Very recently. The fact that you don't have social systems now in your countries is because of your political elites. Because right now your countries are being financed by the bad colonizers. But the money remains to the governments, to the ministers, to the first ladies and the second ladies. They don't go to your people. Now, let's talk about you, the lay believers. Because this wannabe shaykh and other wannabe shaykhs that I have heard speaking and saying such things. Okay, they do their thing, okay? And especially when there is the element of family business, if you know what I mean. It's family business. That's what Wahab did in Saudi Arabia, didn't he? He made an agreement with Saud and said, I will support you to become a political leader. That's why Arabia is now Saudi Arabia. But you will make sure that my children and grandchildren will be the only grand imams in your kingdom. And that was the deal. And until today, the deal is being kept. So the same thing. When it's a family business to be a sheikh. Easy money, easy position. You have the father's name, so you're recognizable. You are up in the ladder. You don't have to start from zero. You're already there because of your father's reputation. Do I blame people that they want to go down that path? No, not at all. Easy path. That is business. I take over. It is what it is. It's you, the lay believers, that you are to be blamed. Because I watched that video and my brain glitched several times and I was like, what is he talking about? And then I went to the comments. Your comments, people. Your comments. And everyone was like, a noble man. Oh no, a noble son of a noble man. And yeah, after this wise man, the father, you come. And I'm like, wisdom is not hereditary. Knowledge is not hereditary. But you lay Muslims, you have ridiculed Islam in many ways. One of which is personality worshipping. You worship personalities. Islam is the only, to my knowledge, if there is any other religion, please let me know. But to my knowledge, Islam is the only democratic religion. In Islam, we don't have appointed clergy. In Islam, anyone who has authority to speak takes this authority by the public, by you and me and the neighbor. And by being like sheep and worship personalities and not using your intellect, what do? You establish empty people guiding you in your religion. It is the same practice that made Al-Ghazali one of the greatest scholars. In Islamic communities, at least in the Middle East that I know, there is one saying that says that every woman, before she gets married, she needs to know 2 books. One is the Quran, the other one is Al-Ghazali's book about marriage. Al-Ghazali. I have made a video about Al-Ghazali. I will put the link underneath in the description of this video if you haven't watched it, to go and watch it. Al-Ghazali, who was the greatest misogynist. Al-Ghazali hated women more than he hated Shaitan. He bad-mouthed women more than he accused Shaitan. He hated women so much that he made a chapter about how horrible women are in a book pertaining to training politicians. So if you want to study political science with Al-Ghazali, you had to have a chapter about how horrible women are. And this author, is the one of the 2 books that every woman needs to read before she gets married. Of course. Do you know why? Because by making a woman, preparing the young bride to marriage, it's very good to prepare her by telling her how horrible she is, how she should worship the husband, and how she has no rights because she is an animal, 6-7 different animals, not good animals. And according to Al-Ghazali, go watch my video and you will understand. I don't want to repeat myself. So yeah, let's talk about harm, especially on women. Because for men it's good. Yeah, if a woman has a so low self-respect and believes that according to her religion, Islam, she is a worthless piece of creature, that's good for the husband, isn't it? Yeah, but it's not good for her. Let's talk about harm. And this happened because of personality worshipping, because none of you has actually read a book of Al-Ghazali. We have translations in all languages. You can find Al-Ghazali's books in Urdu, you can find them in English, you can find them in Arabic. Have you read them? No, you haven't. You might watch videos about how amazing Al-Ghazali is, and he, in certain aspects, maybe he was amazing in certain aspects, but nobody talks about the elephant in the room. Nobody, because everyone wants views on YouTube, and to have views, you need to appease the simple-minded. Do you know that? You do know, because we all know, among us. So there was a research recently, maybe 3 years ago, about which are the countries, which are the populations that they spent more time watching porn. The 3 highest countries were Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries. I will not name the names because I will be accused for being racist. But you and I know which countries. Hours of watching porn. So in these hours that you watch porn and you squeeze your body parts, why don't you buy a book and squeeze your brain? So, you have the power. You make the sheikhs. You are the one who allow these sheikhs or wannabe sheikhs to create false binaries, to erase the identity of Muslims, to create this fallacy of, oh, if you're a born Muslim, you're good by default. Oh my dear God, I'm 46. I deal with Islam for 20 years. I studied, I have videos, I have university degrees, I have spent money, hours of my life studying about Islam, and I have 19 and 20-year-old Moroccans and Egyptians half naked in their profiles, sending me messages on Facebook telling me, I can teach you about Islam, I'm born Muslim. Oh really? Oh really? Why you didn't tell me earlier, brother? And I spent so much money and so much time into studying. I should come to you. You're born Muslim, you know everything. But you are the ones who maintain these mentalities. The lay Muslims, the Muslims who want to hear only whatever appeases them. If you are half Middle Eastern or Asian, or a quarter Middle Eastern or Asian, or 100% Middle Eastern or Asian, you feel so the superiority. Islam good Islam, bad West. But we do want to go to West, to to save ourselves. Yeah. So that was all about the binary of good Islam, bad West, and about how you maintain that by supporting those people that they want to have public speech about Islam. Be thinking creatures.